Well, guys, I get a break today because look who's back.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, where's Parker? Didn't he come today?
He did. He's still in his bag.
This was the babysitter.
Somebody's watching him, and it's not me.
Oops. But anyway, Katie Oskin from Cater's Acres is back with us again for another super duper polymer clay tutorial. And this time we're going to make a pillow.
A heart.
Pillow heart.
Yes.
Okay, everybody loves hearts. I don't care what season it is. They love hearts. Hearts are always popular. You can't go wrong with doing a heart. So Katie's going to show you a new way with a polymer clay heart, and I'm just going to get the hell on out of here and let her take over, and I'm going to rest this week. Yay! Okay, so on with the show and Katie!
Okay, guys, today we're going to make pillow heart pendants. You can use them in your own jewelry creations, and we've got some things here from Bisou that will help you in making your creations. The first of which are some Preciosa crystals that look beautiful. These crystals are in the color light topaz, and their number on the site is FO8416, and they come in a little package. Another thing are these nice little I love you charms, and they also come packaged for you, and they're silverware finish, silverware 01704. And then these really cute, these are one of my favorites, these little cute tulip beads, aren't they adorable? And their number is silverware 01709. So any of those components will look great with these little puffy hearts. And I'm going to show you a very easy method to make them that's quick, and you can shape them and do whatever you want with them. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to make these puffy hearts is some scrap clay. This will just help save some waste in clay, and you'll need some Skinner blends. I'm not going to go over how to make these today, but they are on the website that Javi will link to this video so that you can see how to make them to make your hearts. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the heart puff center. This is a previous tutorial that was published on PC Polyzine that I have adapted for this project. So you're just going to take some scrap clay and you're going to roll it into a ball and then put it down on your work surface, and you're going to roll it into a log. Now the way PC Polyzine says is just to roll it into an even log, but I kind of like the definition of a puffier heart, so I roll the center out and let the edges be puffy, and just roll it back and forth until you have two nicely rounded ends and a thinner center. Then you're going to take your log and you're actually going to cut it on the bias, so you're going to cut it on a diagonal this way, cut straight down from top to bottom, and you will get two pieces. Then you're going to take those two pieces, turn one piece around, and you're going to push them together. So if we take them and push them together, we're going to lightly join the seams. Now I know that doesn't look heart-shaped, right? That's okay, we're going to fix it. Then I'm going to pinch the sides up to form more of a heart and just manipulate it with your fingers until you get a heart shape that you want. Now, because these are going to be flat-backed, puffy heart pendants, think of a moshi pillow. We're going to make a 2-in-1 pendant. So this one heart shape, you could cover this just as it is, or to make it flat-backed, we're going to do a little extra work. So I'm going to put it down with the pointy side up, and I'm going to take my blade, and as precisely as I can, I'm going to cut straight down through the middle of the heart. Now what this is going to do is give us two equal-sized heart pendants. Now we're going to manipulate these. The nice part about covering these hearts, the scrap clay, with a blend is that these hearts don't have to be perfect yet. You are not going to manipulate the shape of your heart until the very last step. So for right now, it doesn't matter that these seams aren't blended. It doesn't matter that this one might look a little bit wonky. We're just going to work with it. And yes, I still love my wonky word. Okay, so take your little, isn't that nice? My wonky word. We're going to take our Skinner blend, and you're going to put your heart on top of it. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the bottom portion of the blend. Now this Skinner blend is rolled out until about the third thinnest setting on my pasta machine. I prefer to use an X-Acto knife for this, but you can use a blade too. It doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable with. I like this because I can hold it better as a pencil in my hand. And I'm going to cut, not exactly, but leaving about 1/8 of an inch around the entire heart pendant. Again, this is going to give us our bottom. So we're just going to take the heart shape that's already there, and I'm going to use my X-Acto knife and cut about 1/8 of an inch around the outside. And this does not have to be exact because it's the bottom. It does not have to be perfect. And I apologize, I have a little bit of a cold right now. So if I sound funny, well, it's because my voice is funny. All right, so then you're going to have your bottom on your heart, and that's a really pretty blend, but now we need to form it to the heart shape itself. So I'm just going to take my fingers and push that edge up and over the scrap clay. I want to really adhere this to the scrap clay, so I'm going to take a knitting needle and I'm just going to roll the seams flat. This is going to help to put the top portion on the heart. And you might have to do this several times. You're going to have to press pretty hard. Again, you might distort your heart a little bit. Don't worry about it. This is not the time to worry about what your heart looks like. You're going to finish your heart at the end. But make sure that, see how this orange part here is taller? You want to make sure that it's the same height as your actual heart. So just keep taking your knitting needle over and blending out those seams. If you have really warm hands, you can do this with your fingers. My hands are chronically cold, so this is easier for me to use a knitting needle. Okay, now we have that down. Now we're going to make the top. Pardon me. Okay, so now you decide where you want your blend to be. I'd like my blend to kind of be matchy-matchy, if you will. So I'm going to put my, pardon me, my heart at about the exact same place on the blend. And it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. Now when you make your top, because it's so much taller, you're going to have to account for that width when you cut out your heart shape. So I'm going to cut narrowly at the top, again, just only about 1/4 inch away, but because these are so puffy, the top portions, I'm going to cut further away, and you'll see that as we do it. But just eyeball it. Again, these do not have to be perfect because you're going to reshape them with your fingers. So just take your time and cut out your heart shapes. And when you get to the top portion of your heart, make sure that you go out, pardon me, I'm so sorry. Make sure you go out further than the curve of your heart. Okay, so now we have our little heart pendant. Now you want to peel off that bottom portion. So this is what your Skinner blend is going to look like. Now you're going to put it on top of your heart. Because you can see how much bigger this is, you want that. You want to line up the bottom with the current piece on the bottom. So you want to make them touch a little bit. But notice, if you turn it over, look how much extra room is on the back. That's good. That's what you want. If you don't have this much room, you need to recut your shape. And what we're going to do is take our fingers, and I'm going to, again, pull down that blend all the way around. Now you'll see I left a little space here. I didn't make mine near wide enough, but I'll show you how to fix it. Take and press. Just continue to press with your fingers the entire way around your heart. And you'll see here I also left some room, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. When you blend your seams down, again, use your knitting needle. If you had a mistake like I did, where they're not quite even, do the places that the colors tend to match first, and just continue to take your knitting needle and roll over it. Now this place that didn't quite cover, I'm going to take the knitting needle and gently push that top layer of clay right over that spot, and it's going to just melt away right into the background like it never even happened. And we're going to continue to do this. Now this spot we'll try, but this might actually be too much of a place that we can't cover it with the clay, but we're going to try. If not, we just get more clay and go back over it. Take your knitting needle and push it down to close in that gap. The more you push the clay, the more it will move for you, and you'll probably be able to close that gap right up just by manipulating the clay. Now I wasn't able to quite do it, but we have extra clay here at the top, so I'm just going to use my tools and I'm just going to roll it down and push it over. And we still have some left, so I'll show you how to fix it at the end. This is not a big deal. Remember, you do not have to be a perfectionist when it comes to clay. Clay is malleable and it is extremely forgiving. I'm going to leave this one nice and big for you to show you on purpose. Now, if you have places that are not covered, all you're going to do is go back to your blend. This is on a reddish-orange section, so I'm just going to cut another little piece out of my Skinner blend that I think might look okay. I have a nice little piece here. I'm going to take it and I'm going to stick it right over that area. Remember, mistakes, as Lisa Pavelka says, are just another opportunity to embellish your piece. So we can always cover this with wire or something else. If your fingers tend to be warm, you can pull the clay across with your fingers. You're going to get that just to melt right away. Now, one of the tricks that I have, if your fingers aren't warm, or if your clay is not warm enough, if you blow on your finger and then use it to smooth your clay, you'll find it smooths much easier because now your finger is not only warm, but it's a little bit moist. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. Get a little tiny piece of clay to cover this spot. So again, we're just going to take and make a cut right into our blend that I think will match okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Place it on our heart and blend it right out. Now, are you going to see this where it was replaced? Absolutely you will, but that's why we're going to embellish it so that you don't see it anymore, so that your eye is not automatically drawn to it. Now you'll see we've kind of destroyed the shape of the heart. Don't worry, because we're going to fix it here in a minute. That's why you don't want to make your heart perfect to begin with. Okay, now once your heart is fully covered, then you're going to take your heart. The easiest thing to do is to set it right down on your work surface. I do this because I like to visually see, especially if you're making jewelry, how it's going to hang, what it's going to look like. Is it even? Is it not even? Is one side fatter than the other? Is one side puffier than the other? The idea is you're going to make a pillow, and your pillows are not always even, but they do look symmetrical to a certain extent. Now, that being said, can you make a wonky asymmetrical heart? You bet you can. This is your heart. Do what you want. Now, I like to start by just pushing along the sides to flatten that back down. I take my knitting needle and I'm going to gently press down in the center and roll. Press and roll. It's kind of all one motion. Now I think for this heart I would like to make it a nice pointy heart, so now I'm going to really alter the shape. Now that it's semi-flat, I'm going to pick it back up and I'm going to use, these are sculptor's best friends, your thumb and your forefinger. I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to press the clay together at the bottom. And then I'm going to turn it over because the reality is that my thumb and my forefinger push two different ways. One is stronger than the other. So by turning it over, I'm going to equalize that pressure, and I'm going to push down a little bit on the back with my thumb. I'm not putting any pressure on my forefinger, only my thumb, and just continue to press. Okay, now we'll put it back down and let's see where we are. Do a little bit more manipulation if you want. I'm going to soften these edges from where my fingers were. You have a nice, pretty little heart. but I want it more of a V. So I'm going to stick my thumb in here. I'm going to push up. That's going to give me a nice little V with my heart. And I'm going to bring this down more. Again, this is whatever your preference is. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I have a little bit of air trapped in there, so we can fix that at the end. And I'm just going to bring this way, way, way down for this pendant. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to push it and curl the end. And it's one way that I'm hiding that fixed piece is by adding a curl, which will naturally draw your eye not to the place that I fixed, but rather to the curl. Now, in order to fix an air bubble, if you get one in there, take a little needle and insert it in. You're going to pop it, smooth it out with your finger, and just keep working at it until that little spot goes right away. And it should, if my hands were warmer, it would be melting into the background much faster. Cheater trick, cheater trick. For all of you who want quick cheats, there's one for you. Okay, now in order to make this look like a pillow, when you think of a pillow and think of it either lying on your bed or sitting on your couch, there are certain things that make it look like a pillow. One of that is the way in which it lays. When we looked at this pendant, you see there's lines in here to give the emphasis that this is something that's laying down or has movement. One of my favorite pillows are Moshi pillows, and they all the time have wrinkles and lines in places that they bend. In order to make it look realistic, one of the things you want to do is follow the lines of the pendant that are already there. You don't want to put in additional lines if you don't have to, unless you're doing a quilted pattern like this bead, okay? So you're just going to take a needle tool. This is a very, very thin needle tool, but you can use a thick one. Following the curve of the bead, lay your needle down. It's going to add a much more natural line and a less forced line than if you were to just pick a random spot, okay? Now it kind of looks like, well, yeah, there could be a bend there. The reason there could be a bend there is because that's where the natural bend of that heart is. Do the same thing for the top. Just follow that down. And I do this very slowly because I want to make it look natural. I don't want this to look forced. So maybe there's curves there. There's always, because this is bending, there's always going to be a curve around any portion that you have rolled up. Think of how you roll a pillow up. So we'll add some curves there. Just continue anytime you add lines to follow the line of the heart that's already there. Stick your tool down and manipulate it that way. So now we have nice little indents where our pillow heart might naturally sit. Now we want to embellish it. What are we going to do? Well, if this is going to be for a piece of jewelry, one of the very easy things to do is to take a crystal and to sit it on your piece where you want it. Now, I don't push it in right away because I kind of like to place it and look at it and decide, maybe I don't want it there. Maybe I want it here. No, I don't like it there. So play with it. Don't push anything down into your clay until you're sure you want that spot to be permanent. And I kind of like it best up here in the top corner. Now, this will stick into the clay as long as you push it down far enough for the clay to naturally come up and wrap around the edges of that crystal. That will also help to create this pillow effect that we're talking about. I don't want to put clay under here and mash it down into clay. I want this to look like a pillow. So I'm going to take my tweezers and I'm just going to push. And as I push that crystal down, it's going to naturally, you can tell there, it's coming up and it's wrapping around the crystal. Now all I'm going to do to add to that is hold it in my hand, use my needle tool, and gently press in just a few lines, not a whole bunch, because we already have a lot of movement on this piece. And I turn, as you can see, so I keep the same angle, I turn the pendant, not my needle tool. That way your angle is never off. Now a couple of these, because again I want it to look like a pillow, I'm going to extend it all the way back to the back. And I do it simply by rocking my needle tool. And it's going to give it that nice pillow effect. Maybe add another little line in here. It's going to give it a nice effect that something has been pushed down into this. So when you're done, you'll have something like this. Now that's beautiful in and of itself, but let's talk a minute about highlights, because there's some things that you can add to clay without taking away from it that will add a little bit of a highlight to it. And one of those things is by using mica powders. For this I am using Interference Red, and my special cheater trick is never dip your paintbrush in the jar of mica powder. Number one, you're going to waste too much. Number two, you're going to be sorry you did because there's just too much on your project. So take your brush and dip it into the lid only. This is going to load your brush with a little bit of mica powder. You can always use more. Once it's on there, it's hard to get it off. What we're going to do is we're going to add highlights. So think of when you do your makeup, if you add a contour to your face or a highlight to your face, you're going to do the same thing now with jewelry. So when your eye looks at this, the first place it's going to go is to the rounded parts. So we're going to add a highlight by taking this in my hand, and I'm going to take the brush right around that natural curve of the pendant. And I'm going to force a highlight and force your eye to go to a place that maybe it's already going to naturally go. So I'm accenting it. Now you can tell there's a little bit of mica powder. Can you see that in the camera, Javi? There's a little bit, but there's not too much. I want to mute this down so your eye doesn't really know that I'm tricking you. So I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub over that mica powder. What that's going to do is mute it. And it's going to add that effect without being like, oh, she just put mica powder on there, that's why it looks so nice, okay? You're actually taking away from the mica powder a little bit by adding a natural highlight. And I'm going to do the same thing right around where we have the crystal. Just dipping my paintbrush right into the lid, not into the jar, and taking my finger and rubbing around it to really mute that effect. Now, once you bake your bead or your pendant or whatever you're making, you want to take some acrylic paint. This is brown acrylic paint. I prefer brown as opposed to black because I think it looks more natural. Black tends to be very harsh. But the other thing that works very well that I use a lot is a brick red because it's very close to brown, but it adds a little bit of highlight in it. Now before you finish your pendant, you're going to need to decide before you bake it how you want your pendant to hang. Do you want it to be like this one that will hang a little bit sideways when it's on a chain? Do you want it to be like this one that will hang straight up and down? It's your choice. You're the designer. What we're going to do is I already have a piece of pre-coiled wire. You want to make sure that one end of your coil is bent so that your coil cannot pull out of the clay as you're wearing it. And I'm going to reinforce that just a little bit by adding, this is translucent liquid sculpey. We're going to add just a dab of translucent liquid sculpey on the end that has the hook in it. I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to put it right down through the center. Okay. And there you go. And then this is all ready to bake. And then when it comes out, add your acrylic paint and take some of your other baubles that you have, whatever you might have. Bisou has a nice color tray, which is why we made the hearts in these colors. These are some things from Irene Hoffman and some pendants that we've made actually here with Bisou and some of Bisou's leaves. But these hearts will go nicely with this color palette. So look at some of the things that you already have and make some things that will coordinate nicely. So that's your project. You want to bake it for at least 30 minutes in a polymer clay dedicated oven covered in foil so that the color doesn't shift. Have fun and good luck.